So I hope that I can give you guys some insight. I got some great insight, which triggered me to want to speak last time I was here. Some of this is going to seem very fundamental, but I think when we get down to the case studies and how we talk about and really wrap it in a bow at the end, I hope that you can have some good takeaways, maybe help your agency if you're using multiple agencies as an agency, challenge your clients a little bit better, and benefit from what we're able to reap on our omni-channel media. So we all use the term omni-channel at least 18 times a day. But what does it really mean? Like, does it simply mean that we're using TV, radio, digital to generate sales? To me, it's so much more. We really are working in a world where it's omni-channel campaign within omni-channel campaign within omni-channel campaign. And it was our challenge to manage it like a portfolio, to a bottom line, caveat, we are absolutely return on investment driven. So it was, my CFO came to me and said, I need this number. And I had to say, okay, how are we going to get there in a world of declining long-form TV, which long-form in our world is 28-30s, not the 60s of your digital world. And knowing that short-form really wasn't trackable on a return on investment level. So here's some of the ways that we've been able to use omni-channel loosely, and the 5 things that we really feel that you need to get to the next level. It's one vision, it's one goal. Seems very basic, but it's really managing your managers. My manager, when I was 23, starting in the industry, I had a manager that said, Lindsay, it's your job to manage me. And I said, what? It is? And she goes, absolutely. As you start growing in this business and growing as a manager, it will always be your job to manage your managers. Let me, by a raise of hands, how many of you are managing your media, whether it be on the agency side or a marketing side? How many of you have been asked by your CFO while you're still spending money on prospecting? It's a constant struggle that I have. Every year, no matter what I say, no matter what we do, we're always challenged with, well, why are you spending money like that? It doesn't have a good return. But it is my job as the liaison between our agencies and our executive team to really sell that whole idea. And we really want to partner with specialists, and I might upset some people in the room, but I don't believe in one agency for all things. I'm sorry. And it's just, we've proven over time that if we put all of our eggs in one basket, we become slightly less valuable. They kind of have us by the pants, and if something's not doing well, it's really hard for us to make adjustments. So we have one agency that's managing our short form and advanced TV. One thing that's missing on this is we still do a significant amount on long form. We use anywhere from 3 to 4 agencies at any given time for all of our campaigns. We have one agency that's doing our digital media, and our advanced TV and short form, all of our digital video and connected TV comes through them, and our digital media is completely separate. One thing that actually came from one of these seminars was having a summit. I had a media summit last year, and we brought in networks, we brought in all of our agencies. Dish was there, ESPN was there, Discovery Networks were there, Google came, Quantcast came, and it was an education session for everyone in the room. There was just a sharing of information, nothing was proprietary, everything cards out on the table, and every one of my event, whether you be Discovery understanding why I'm doing what I do on my business side, or Quantcast wondering why my digital agency is making the moves that they're making. It really put everybody, which leads to my next part also, everybody became a partner. And that's one thing I really advocate with my media team is you guys are not vendors. I hate the term. I think if you're treated like vendors, you're gonna act like vendors. But if you're treated like partners, you're gonna act like partners. And if you feel like you have skin in the game and that there's that likability and that you really want to make something successful, it really helps, it goes a long way. Knowing your KPIs, obviously so fundamentally basic. But really, as a direct response marketer, it was very easy. 5 years ago, it was, what's our MER? What's our return on investment? Super simple. But then we started adjusting our media mix, and we started going a little bit more into short-form drive to retail. And we created a proxy, and I think this is something that I hope that can be a good takeaway for some of you, is testing and holdout. I've heard other people talk about it. We did start there, we did, but our budgets just didn't warrant it. It was very, very, very expensive, and it took weeks, and then you have to react to it. So what we were able to do is determine a baseline. Fortunately or unfortunately, I have a very seasonal business. We sell outdoor power equipment and power tools. So obviously spring would be a fantastic season for us. So what we were able to do is use Google search trends over the past 3 years. We created an index by week, and I overlay that index with my retail sales for every week. So when I run media and I know that I'm in a seasonal environment, I'm only getting credit. Media is only getting credit for that lift over that forecasted baseline based on seasonality, which is kind of a bummer because I was like, oh my God, my sales are amazing. My CFO was like, no, you only get X% of that. This would have happened whether you spent money or not. But it really, we were able to not only, over years we've been doing this, the first couple of years we proxied it and even could see when competitors were spending against us. It was that accurate. We took a huge tip and we said, what happened? Well, Ryobi came out with something at $69. So it was very, very, very accurate for us. And obviously direct channels have some level of attribution, whether it's quantifiable or anecdotal, which prospecting, anecdotal at this point. But really knowing your source of truth and committing to it, and it circles back to managing your managers. Is it just gonna be sales over baseline? Is it total sales? This whole last click attribution versus, obviously, I mean, we're still kind of stuck on that source of truth for now. For e-commerce, do I only get credit for my site, or do I get credit for what's happening on Amazon as well? So again, it's knowing your KPIs and everyone being like on the same page. Because if you're not on the same page, I can promise you that someone's gonna come back 6 months later and say, why didn't we agree to this, or we didn't agree to this? I've had it happen multiple times. Knowing your audience, we've talked about, that's why we're here, right? We've talked about it ad nauseum, but everything hinges on that audience. And fortunately, connected TV has allowed us to start buying more like digital. But we used to be buying men 35, 54. In this case, I'm gonna show you, it's women 40 plus with their married annual income of 2 million. They look really similar, but they are not the same person. And knowing how I can get one person versus the other on a TV, at a TV level, set-top box, has been pretty powerful for us. So we've been able to, we actually also have My Take. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. It's basically our own little case study focus group. It's blind. They're actively involved with our brand. We can ask them anything from, do you like this orange and black versus orange and white? They are avid and very active in our group, and we are able to see what those people look like, how they're behaving, what they want. Tends to be a little older, obviously, just based on what we're asking them to do. And then we also, our TV agency uses tools that have been able to get us down to a very, very finite level. Within the past, this campaign that I'll reference when we get to the next slide, is we've been able to purchase people that have purchased power tools within the past 12 months, went into a hardware store, and or have looked for outdoor power equipment. So it got very finite. We were no longer men 35, 54, or 55 plus, which unfortunately, when you're buying long form or infomercial, that kind of tends to be where you are. And this is really a lot of circles, but this is what I'm talking about with it being omni-channel within omni-channel within omni-channel. It's a micro strategy within the whole macro. So if you look at that inner circle, we have our digital omni-channel campaign. My agency, and I've heard all of you talk about it, you're always constantly making fluid lever pulls. You're saying, okay, I'm spending X amount on paid search, I'm spending X amount on video, I'm seeing X amount on social. What is my return on investment? Are you at the goal? Okay, great. We're gonna push levers a little harder. But That's only a piece of the puzzle. And it, again, goes back to our agencies understanding what our overall goal is. Because if my digital agency sitting there saying, well, we're hitting the number you need us to hit, and my TV is not doing what I forecasted it to do, that doesn't matter. None of that matters. If I'm managing to that bottom line number and only one piece is working, then the campaign's not working. So then you get to the outer circle, which is obviously more of the mass media. We have our long form TV, which I've talked about. We manage that 100% like a portfolio. Our agencies are obviously managing on a station level, but we're also taking money away from agencies and giving agencies money weekly based on how they're performing. We do it with our call centers. It keeps everybody accountable. It keeps everybody on your toes, and it makes them want to work a little bit harder. Because on the agency side, we all know you don't make money unless you bill money. And then on the digital side, obviously that's a piece of it. But our short form TV is really where we've started to see some of those levers really get pulled in the past year. We did a campaign. We have the grass trimmer. Last year we ran for around Father's Day, obviously peak seasonality. And because I'm ROI driven and I try to manage my managers, but sometimes they still say no, we really tried to get into addressable and connected TV last year. And they're like, well, it's not really quantifiable. Are we gonna put the, we're getting web hits from it. Are we gonna give that to the digital? Or are we gonna give it to short form? Is it really driving retail? And I couldn't give them an answer. I couldn't. So I said, okay, we'll just go with the traditional way. We'll do it your way, go team, last year. For Christmas, we started incorporating a little bit more of the connected TVs, a little bit more over the top. Saw a pretty good lift, but I didn't have a proxy. I didn't have a baseline for it. This Father's Day, we went out with about 30% over the top addressable connected TV and 70% traditional. And in the exact same week, year over year, last year, we sold 9,000 units at Lowe's. This year, for the past 2 weeks, we sold 18,000 and 19,000 units. Only thing that changed in my media model was adding over the top. Obviously, it's a late spring. There's probably something to be said for that pent-up demand. But the numbers kind of speak for itself. But what that also does is, again, looking at it from an omni-channel level, allows me to push my digital agency a little further, push a little harder. I told you I thought I needed an X MER. Let's put on the gas. It's going. But if my digital agency didn't understand the whole omni-channel approach with all of our marketing, they would just be sitting there pretty and just waiting for me to, just optimizing. So we've had an awesome year being able to pull those levers, see everything, impact everything. And I got an email from my CFO. Well, we'll go back to pulling the digital levers. I got an email from my CFO 2 days ago that said, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. He said, our sales this year, year to date, are the exact same. Our spending is $1 million less. Same sales. It's all managing that digital agency, having that digital agency pull the levers, understanding the impact of my long form on the digital, understanding the impact of the short form on my digital, and feeding the whole funnel. It's a pretty impressive stat. And then obviously the outer omni-channel is all of those things feed my business. Ultimately, e-commerce is a huge play. Amazon is 30 to 40% of our sales, completely mirrors all of our media spend. Our e-commerce, I'd prefer to go there because cost of goods is better. My margins are better. But that all feeds up into that funnel. And then retail. We had Lowe's call us and say, how do I get more of those grass trimmers? There's a 12-week delivery window. I can't help you. But they were so impressed with what we were doing and how we were doing it that they asked us for more 2 weeks after running media. So it really goes to show that when I had all the right pieces in place and I'm managing it to the right level, we were able to make hay when the sun was shining for sure. And I think that this strategy applies whether you're the marketer like I am or the agency, because I would love my agency to challenge me and say, how do we look at it like this? Or an agency to come to me and say, well, I want to know how the overall's doing, rather than me having to be the one that organized that whole thing. But I started on the agency side. So I encourage you agencies to go to your marketers and ask for more. There are a lot of them that won't tell you, and I get that. But if they can, and they will, it's a pretty powerful tool to know where you sit in the whole funnel and how your performance is against everybody else. And the fifth thing is everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. Thank you, Mike Tyson. Everybody. Hey, who had a long winter this year? Everybody? Everybody? Everybody. So if you look at, again, I work in outdoor power equipment. So if we did an analysis of snow cover the first week of April, year over year, 9% of the country was covered last year, the first week of April, and 21% of the country was covered by snow this year, first week of April. And if you looked at the whole month of March, it was 23% last year and nearly 37% this year. So through May, we were nearly 13% below our budget forecast. There's nothing we could do about that. Nothing. Return on investment driven. And let me tell you, Home Depot and Lowe's that were bought in the upfront were pretty bummed with their budgets this year. That's what I hear. But spending now has exceeded forecast for May. Spending has exceeded forecast for May, and then we're just adapting. We had to adapt to the unseasonably long winter. So what we were able to do is take advantage of that. I think we're definitely 13% above, and there was pent-up demand. I think Lowe's said that or Home Depot said that they were 30% below goal for outdoor power equipment going into April, and now have made up and exceeded where they expected to be this time last year. So what I'm saying there is you have to be fluid, and you have to be nimble, and you have to react. And it's our job as the marketers to make my agencies accountable for that, and to do it quickly and to do it effectively. But if you don't know the pieces of the puzzle, you don't all agree on the KPIs, then you're sitting there saying, oh, what do I do now? But when you have the pre-established KPIs, you have the pre-established goals, it's very easy for us to pull the lever without any red tape. It's just go. And then I'll give you another case study. If you asked me 2 years ago if I could run a digital-only campaign for one of my tools, I would have told you were crazy. I still believe that TV is the best mass media you can have. But we have a blower that has been on infomercials for about 5 years. It's really to the end of its life cycle. I mean, we were doing everything right on the long-form side, using multiple agencies, and nothing was working. We use our forecast sheet, and we do basically a balance sheet, where I'll say, if this, why? If this, why? If this, why? So we looked at all the numbers, and we worked through everything, and it said, wow, if I cancel all my long form, if I just get rid of it, and I can keep my digital spending at this level, I will actually make more money in contribution than I'm spending. Lo and behold, it held true. And then I said, well, it's never going to continue once long form's off. Our tail's just not going to work. Well, we're 4 weeks out, and it's still holding. So we had initially looked at everything as the same. You start at long form. If it's in retail, you add short form. And we've disproven that theory, that all of our campaigns need to they all behave differently and need to be treated differently. Another case in point is we have an oscillating tool, for any of you that know what an oscillating tool is. And we had run it drive to retail, short form TV, radio is a big component of that. And our biggest bump were in markets that we did radio, lift over baseline for retail. So I went to my CFO and president this year, and I said, what if we just do a radio campaign? I'm like, okay, but if we're going to do radio, we're going to stick with our omni-channel approach, right? And I said, yeah, we actually are. We're doing terrestrial radio. We're doing satellite radio. We're doing Pandora programmatic radio. And we're doing iHeart app streaming radio only. We have like markets across each of those. I go 4 markets deep, and within each of those cells, I have 2 geo-fenced as well. So not only can I come out of this test with almost too many data points, but I'll be able to come out and say, yes, this omni-channel approach, A, worked, but I can also say what worked better and come out and say, I know I need that rate, that CPM for that channel. I need that rate, that CPM for that channel. I need that rate and that CPM for that channel. But oh, by the way, if you add on geo-targeting, I'll give you some flexibility because it does so much better. So it really allows us to, when we have the attitude that every piece is omni-channel within itself, it's really changed our mindset and it's really changed the game for us entirely. So, I mean, really, it's a mindset shift. We're so close. Most of you are all there saying omni-channel, but this is really just looking at it on a more micro level. And the final thing I'll say is that if you are a stockbroker, you have a responsibility like a painter to know your subject. You have to advise people right, and if you're more right than wrong, then I think you're doing fine. This is definitely not to say we haven't failed. And I'm not afraid to say we failed, but I'm gonna fail cheaply, I'm gonna fail smartly. And it is up to us to, as the agencies, to advise our clients how to do that, and as marketers to challenge our agencies to give us the risk dollars to do it. So that's really, I mean, what we've seen, and it's been a really good year.
Lindsay, thank you very much. Let's, do you have any questions for Lindsay? Yep, over here.
Hi, I just had a question on creative. It's Josh Martin from Performix. You didn't mention creative in this presentation at all. I was just wondering where that fit into the equation, if it did at all.
Digital, we're always creative testing. I think that's just kind of part of it. When I get to display, I mean, we're looking at it. We know what's worked better. We did an annual audit. I'll tell you the challenges we have from a creative testing perspective are we're so seasonal. So for us to do, you know, the A/B test, I need to make decisions very quickly. But we are doing creative. We're actually starting to targeting creatives for different demographic groups digitally and reacting and moving on those. And from the TV side, we did we have a HydroShot. It's a power cleaner. It's not a pressure washer. It is a power cleaner. We did a test. Everybody thought all these applications, you can take it with you anywhere. It comes from any fresh water source. So we did one creative that was a woman around the home using it for her garden, cleaning off her kid's bike, and one was like an outdoor enthusiast spot. We actually used radio to test that. We used a company to read our Google hits after our radio spots ran, and we were able to apply that to our TV, use that on TV, and roll out the appropriate creative and the right mix.
Are you playing with any new ad formats across these channels?
We are pretty much 30s and 15s for TV. And one of the guys mentioned it on the previous panel. We are all in on wanting to produce. We produce in-house. So in terms of cost and speed and turnaround time, it's really good. We struggle with getting someone to buy a power tool in 6 seconds and how we're going to message that. Because even some of the TV networks are starting to change to that 6 seconds. I think the A&E networks are starting to, or Lifetime are starting to put some of those in there. So our biggest struggle is how we do that, and how we, it goes back to whether we're gonna commit to being a brand and start elevating to a brand level, or still measure everything on a return on investment level, which ends up challenging.
Lindsay, thank you very much.